Since the early years of the Christian religion, the city of Jerusalem has served an important purpose for believers. The Holy City was the chief place of pilgrimage for the followers of Jesus, a site where Christians could visit Calvary Hill, the tomb of Jesus, and even renew their baptisms in the Jordan River. Pilgrimages became more prevalent in 325 AD, when the Roman Emperor Constantine I consecrated the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, built on Golgotha, the supposed place of Jesus' crucifixion. However, at that time, the Sassanid Empire, the last Iranian empire before the rise of Islam, proved to be a threat to Christian control of the Holy Land. As a demonstration of his power, Sassanid leader Khosrau II, in 614 AD, laid siege to Jerusalem, ultimately conquering the city. 10 years later, Byzantine Emperor Heraclius retook the Holy Land, forcing the surrender of Khosrau and regaining Jerusalem under Christian control. This instance in 624 AD served as a historical precedent for the Crusaders when retaking the Holy Land in the late 11th century. Spurred by the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632 AD, Islamic leaders in the Rashidun Caliphate achieved rapid expansion in the mid-7th century, ultimately retaking Jerusalem in 637 AD. When analyzing the First Crusade, it is important to understand how the unstable political and religious control of Jerusalem as a city had a profound effect on not only its inhabitants, but also outside entities. The constant struggle of opposing political and religious forces for control of the Holy Land laid the foundation for the coming Crusades. Coming to power in 909 AD, the rise of the Fatimid Caliphate marked an important time period for Crusader history, since it was the major Islamic governing body in the Holy Land region leading up to the First Crusade. One notable point during this period was the ordered destruction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre under Caliph Hatim the Mad in 1009. The church would be rebuilt, however, by request of the Byzantine Emperor in 1048, after the end of Hatim's reign. The other main political opponent of the Byzantine Empire during this time was the Seljuk Sultanate, an empire which spanned most of the Middle East by the late 11th century, which was seen as a threat to the neighboring Fatimid and Byzantine empires. Under their leader Alp Arslan, the Seljuks had annexed the majority of Anatolia by 1068. In 1071, the Seljuks defeated the Byzantines at the Battle of Manzikert, further emphasizing their political dominance over the Near East. The influence of the Fatimid Caliphate and the Seljuk Sultanate over the Middle Eastern and Levant regions in the 10th and 11th centuries must be seen as direct influences of the imminent conflicts. Emperor Alexios I took the Byzantine throne in 1081, inheriting several problems stemming from the ongoing Seljuk Wars in Anatolia. Frustrated by years of dispute and concerned for the safety of his people, in 1095 Alexios sent his messenger to Piacenza, Italy, to plead to Pope Urban II to send a force to defend the faith and to drive back the Seljuks. Hearing the messenger's pleas, Urban decided to make the Seljuk conflict a major component of his upcoming council. Gathering church officials, clergy members, and various European heads of state, Urban gave this message concerning Alexios' plea at the Council of Clermont on October 27, 1095. Let those who have been accustomed unjustly to wage private warfare against the faithful now go against the infidels, and end with victory this war which should have been begun long ago. Moved by Urban's words, a French priest known as Peter the Hermit led bands of zealous peasants and other low-class citizens from his home in Amiens, France, and marched across the European continent, determined to quell the anti-Christian threat posed by the Seljuks and in the Byzantine regions. Unfortunately, the aggression held by Peter and his peasants was misplaced when a thirst for blood and an infestation of anti-Semitic ideology led to the Rhineland massacres, a series of Jewish killings carried out by the members of the People's Crusade throughout Europe on their march to Constantinople. These acts were later condemned by the Catholic Church. Peter and his group of impassioned volunteers would meet their end, however, when they were decimated by the Seljuk forces at the Battle of Kijevo in October of 1096, thus marking the end of the People's Crusade. While Peter the Hermit was rousing rabble within the impoverished regions of Europe, Pope Urban was also putting together a force of his own to send to Alexios. Calling on various European heads of state, Urban was able to raise four main armies to join in the fight alongside the Byzantines. The second papal force was known as the Princes' Crusade, because of the four major royal princes who answered Urban's call. Each prince, Hugh I of France, who was the son of Henry I of France, Godfrey of Bouillon, Raymond IV, Count of Toulouse, and Bohemond I of Antioch, led their respective armies to Constantinople. After meeting up with Alexios, the princes engaged in several conflicts with the Seljuks in the coming years, including the siege of Nicaea, the Battle of Dorylaeum, the siege of Antioch, and finally culminating in the siege of Jerusalem on July 15, 1099. The retaking of the Holy Land under Christian control in 1099 marks the end of the First Crusade, but does not prevent, however, the several conflicts which are to come.